Welcome. I'm Dave Nicholson with the Futurum Group here for 6.5 Media. And we've got a really interesting conversation on the line. If you go back in history, these two companies have been rivals and partners at the same time. This is a classic example of what we call co-opetition in the tech space. I'm joined by Brett Tanzer from Microsoft, the Azure Group, and Karan Batta from Oracle. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So this is super interesting. For years and years, there's been a bit of a tension in the database space over the years between Oracle and Microsoft, naturally. How long ago was it, however, that you folks decided to come together and actually run Oracle on essentially Oracle hardware in Azure's cloud? Brett, how long has that been going on for?
Well, Microsoft and Oracle have been partnering in the cloud for about 9 years. So we have a number of different solutions. It was just about 2 years ago when we launched Oracle Database at Azure and brought Exadata infrastructure into the Azure cloud.
And we've got something new to talk about. Let's jump straight to the latest. Karan, what's the latest on that front? And then we'll dig into some of the details about what Exadata and Exascale mean.
Sure. Yeah. So I think we are, of course, a database company, but also an infrastructure company. We're continually investing in our database services. So I think the two main sort of announcements I'd say is, of course, we have sort of the region availability stuff we can talk about, but it's really Exadata service on Exascale infrastructure. This is sort of our future of what Exadata is going to look like moving forward in the cloud, which is essentially disaggregated Exadata that you can scale, as you need, essentially. And then the second thing being is not everybody needs an Exadata, right? But customers do need a broader database service. At OCI, we have the base database service that allows you to launch a database on everything from a subcore all the way up to Exadata. We now have that availability as part of Azure as well.
Okay, makes sense. Now, Brett, when people think about a cloud provider in general, we're often thinking about optimizing around standardized infrastructure that will support anything. But there are cases where specialized infrastructure makes a lot of sense. So where's the kind of specialized piece come into this from your perspective?
Well, because Oracle has done such great work to optimize the database services on top of Exadata hardware, customers who run Oracle database services on Exadata and Azure, they really get the best of both worlds. They get all of the capabilities they've built to enable high availability and all the performance and optimizations around the storage stacks. This is a case where the vertical integration between the hardware and the database software really pays off for customers. And then once we deliver that in an Azure data center and connect it to our network and provide millisecond access to the rest of Azure, it creates a really powerful combination for application developers and AI developers who want to take that specialized hardware and database stack from Oracle and build applications that work with the rest of Azure.
Okay, so key there is that you're not just creating an island of exa fill in the blank, but you're actually creating an environment that has connectivity into the rest of all of Azure's goodness. Is that what I just heard?
No, I think that makes sense. I think the thing to understand here is that it's the same service that we offer to our public cloud customers as well. So essentially what we're doing is it's not, because we do sell Exadata Cloud Customer, which is an independent hardware appliance as well. What Azure's getting essentially is the same level of performance, guarantees, operational cadence, like all of the things that we do for our public cloud customers in OCI. We're essentially doing that inside Azure as a first-party native thing. So, we operated just like we would any other OCI region. So those are all the capabilities that come with.
Well, Brett touched a little bit on this idea of a vertically integrated stack of hardware. Can you kind of double click on that? Because it all sounds good, but what does that mean exactly? When you talk about Exascale, specifically Exadata, we know the Oracle database, but how is this vertically integrated?
Yeah, I mean, it comes from everything from sort of the hardware itself, right? So we've obviously designed the hardware specifically for database workloads. There's the hypervisor and all of the management layer and the software that comes with the Exadata appliance, and then on top of that, it's all of the other features that are tightly integrated. For example, rack, right, where customers are able to deploy distributed database. Then there's things like DataSafe and Golden Gate, which are tightly integrated into those pieces. So everything just works out of the box. Now, part of this also is there's also this integration that happens with Azure, right? So everything from identity to networking to the platform integration, where a customer needs to be able to manage, run, and operate an Exadata just like they used to on premise, but it needs to work in the same operational capacity in the cloud and through Azure. So that means when you launch a database on a PDB or CDB, you essentially are able to get the same level of monitoring, logging, analytics, all those things just flow through automatically. And that's because of all the integration that we've done directly into the platform layer of Azure.
Let's say I'm an administrator who has an Exadata system in my data center. It's on premises. We also have folks who are using Azure for all sorts of different services. What's the sort of acquisition path to this? Where do I go? What's the go to market? Is this something that can be had in essentially Microsoft Azure's store of services like this? Would you go through Oracle? How do we get that? Let me ask Brett that question.
Yeah, I mean, customers can get Oracle Database at Azure right through the Azure portal. You go into the Azure portal, sign in with your account, and you see availability. And then you work with your partners at Oracle to make sure you've got all the pricing negotiated and uploaded to the portal. And then you just go through and you acquire it just like you would any other Azure service. And what's great is that Oracle engineers have done the work to go integrate that experience into the Azure platform. So, the people who build it, they've done the work to give you an experience to provision it and to figure out the right capacity and done all of that work right in the Azure portal.
Now, Brett, when we talk about cloud, one of the pitches is it's not on-prem, it's off-prem, it's not here, it's there. And you shouldn't care where there is. But the reality is, it does matter where these things physically reside. Have you made movement in terms of where these services are available? Because I imagine you don't have Exadata systems deployed in every single location around the globe that offers some measure of Azure. What does that look like today?
Well, not yet anyway. Today, we already have Oracle Database at Azure available in 14 of Azure's 60 plus regions, and we've committed to deliver another 17 by the end of the calendar year. So we should be halfway there by the end of this year.
Karan, are we still talking about this in terms of hybrid cloud? If you had to tell me the percentage of folks who are running some Oracle stuff on-prem, some Oracle stuff in Azure, is that going to be the majority, or are people moving everything into Azure in this environment?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think the reality is right now is that, one of the reasons why we have this partnership in the first place is because customers have already picked a first provider, right? We don't want to limit customers' choices to be like, well, it's OCI or nothing or on-prem. We want to make sure that we are, giving the customers choice to get the same first-class citizen experience, Oracle experience, doesn't matter what cloud they go to. So with Azure, right, they've picked Azure for certain reasons, whether it's AI capabilities, analytics, other parts of the platform. We want to make sure that Oracle Stack works harmoniously with those pieces. And then we want to give them, like, it's not a lever that it's like, well, if you run it in Azure, it works worse than if you run it on-prem. Or now there's a difference and a delta between on-prem and the cloud. Like, of course, if you want to run it if you run it in a bunker, right? Like, sure, like you can buy an Exadata Cloud customer appliance. It's not going to give you the scalability, the pay-per-use, all the things that you talk about from a cloud perspective. But if you just want to run something on-prem behind a wall and you just want to have that single deployment, we still have that option for customers. But a lot of those customers are tending to move away from that model because, we're almost covering pretty much every base.
Well, you mentioned the C word, customers. Do you have any examples of use cases? Oftentimes it's tough to toss out names of companies, and everyone is doing business with those companies. But can you give me an example of a really good use case for this? Something that would be the driver, where someone would say, I want to do this.
Sure. Yeah. So I think Beck can also take this, but essentially the number one thing that we find is, the world's data run Oracle databases. They're kind of deployed everywhere. They're ubiquitous in some ways, right? So it's part of the reason for the region deployment strategy. But to start off, a customer runs an Oracle database. They're running, we're also an applications company. So we have hundreds of applications, everything from retail to finance to even healthcare as an example, or even the horizontal apps like the back office applications like e-business suite, PeopleSoft, those kinds of things. So a lot of customers are building cloud native solutions, let's say on Azure. They also want to bring together their back office applications running on Oracle database, and so they're able to now deploy certified back office applications directly on Azure, backed by an Oracle database service. So that's number one, and that's the easiest path forward for a customer to move those. Don't want to say legacy, but legacy workloads into cloud. But then on top of that, they also have satellite applications that sit around those back office applications. There are custom applications running on WebLogic or Java or something else. They're also using this ability to move those applications in because, again, most customers that are deploying Oracle apps generally have a complex set of back office and other types of custom apps that surround that. And so it's all got to just move in one sort of swoop, right? And then there's new age developers that are using things like autonomous database and the Exascale service, where these things are more competing with sort of the more cloud native like workloads where they're scaling massive cloud native workloads.
You asked about use cases, Dave. So, we have customers in all vertical industries. We have customers in the financial services industry and banking that are using this to run their insurance practice, and their customer databases that are managing, all of their customers or doing pricing on the back end. We have customers in the medical industry that are using it really to manage hospitals in the way that information is managed for various patients and partners and medical records in there. We have customers in the telecom industry that are using it really to deliver, telecom and digital services all the way down to the edge. And so, because as Karan said, much of the world's data lives in Oracle, there's such a diversity of use cases that we're able to deliver in Azure now because we have Oracle database in Azure.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned earlier that it's been 9 years or more that you've been actively working as partners together. Sometimes from the outside looking in, when you're looking at companies the size of Oracle or Microsoft, the perception from the customer can be, wow, is anyone listening to me? Obviously, you're responding here to what customers are asking for, which is a huge impetus. But I'm going to ask you, Brett, what are some of the first things if someone says, I want to run this platform within Azure? What are some of the first things that they end up dabbling in Azure-wise that they maybe otherwise would not have been exposed to? Are there some specific things that you attach into that environment that are like top of the list?
Yeah, great question, Dave. So I think, as a company that focuses a lot on delivering end-to-end enterprise workloads, there's a lot of services that really surround the data estate that is Oracle database at Azure. Almost all of our customers come to Azure, and after they migrate the database into the Azure cloud, one of the first things they do is they use Oracle Golden Gate to connect data into Microsoft Fabric so they can go use analytics, or they move data into OneLake so they can start to use our AI stack, or they start to be able to build applications using our Power Tool automation suite, because now that they've got their data in Azure connected by a very low latency network, they can build incredible applications and really take advantage of that set of capabilities.
Well, from the Oracle perspective, I have a question for you. Let's say I'm a customer and you and Microsoft and others have done your best to offer me pretty much anything I might want, any combination. The great cartoon character Charlie Brown once said that often the most discouraging situation is having a lot of potential because you don't know what to do. How do people sort through this? Um, how do people decide when to move, where to move? Um, I mean, are they engaged with both the sort of the leading edge of Azure's go-to-market strategy and Oracle's go-to-market strategy? Do you jointly engage customers in the field?
There's multiple answers for it. I think it depends, but I think what I would say is, in general, the rule here is that we do collaborate on every single customer. Now, every single customer is could be different, right? Now, the reality is their Oracle estate in some ways is patternistic. They're either running on-prem Exadata, they're running Oracle database as a standalone thing on top of some other appliance or hardware, and so actually migrating that to the cloud is not that hard. We already have patternistic behaviors, and we have architecture to do that, whether it's going to OCI or going to Azure, or whether it's refreshing or maybe moving parts of it to Azure. And so I think we have different mechanisms to do that. The thing that really, I think what we've seen is customers love the fact that neither Azure nor Oracle Cloud actually care so much about, well, you should run this or that. We try to understand the customer's behavior and pattern, and then we try to recommend what's best for them. Because at the end of the day, the way the partnership is set up, we in fact end up gaining equally, right? It's a win-win situation because the customer gets what they want. They still stay in Oracle technology. They invest in Azure. In fact, even our field organizations are very well aligned in terms of incentives. And then on top of that, we've made sure that there's no, I would say, there's every motivation for the customer to do so. So, for example, if a customer has a ULA contract with Oracle for licenses or database or whatever else, today, if they move to OCI, we offer them support rewards. So if they use the cloud, they get credit back on their support bill. We extend that offer if they move to Azure as well. So we try to do things in a way where it's independent. The commercial decision is independent of how they're actually going to move to the cloud. So, and that's why the teams are so well aligned from an engineering field, even support perspective. Microsoft takes level one, and then we triage and we do it together. So it's all of it's kind of like very much in play with what the customers need and want, and we try to give them the right path forward.
Like customers have really told us that this is a case where 1+1 = 3, where they get the best of expertise from Oracle operating with the best of expertise inside Azure and together. And there's not a lot of friction between the organizations. So that makes it really easy for them to get on board and start to migrate and figure out how to move their applications to the cloud and then start to modernize them.
Yeah, one thing I was going to mention was, every customer that's a Microsoft 365 customer is also an Oracle customer. So one of the reasons why, we start, in fact, the Microsoft Oracle partnership started in multi-cloud way before than anybody else. And the reason for that is customers are both of our customers, and they're very complementary in terms of the tech stack. So it just makes sense.
Yeah. Well, having been in some of the rooms, let's be honest. There has also been tension over the years because we're all going after markets. That's why this is so remarkable, frankly. One more question, Brett. This might sound like a silly question, but if I want to essentially spin up an Exadata environment, you have the hardware ready to do that, right?
I do.
So in other words, if I said I want one of those in my data center, you're selling this as a service. If I want this and I can run it as a service in my own data center, I'm going to wait. There's that other thing where it's like, this is real cloud in the sense that you've already made the investment in the hardware. It's there, it's ready to go, and you're now spinning up services. I have that right?
You have that right. Every day, Oracle engineers and Microsoft engineers work together to bring more capacity into Azure data centers around the globe. And so if you order it, we have it.
And at the end of the day, we are in the business of selling computers. We have computers to sell.
It's amazing. It isn't often that I relish in the fact that I am so old, But I have to tell you, I know you guys have been doing this for a long time, but I've been around for a long time, and this just still, it really feels special. It really does. So continued success to all parties concerned. For 6.5 Media, I'm Dave Nicholson with the Futurum Group. Thanks for joining us in this conversation about running Oracle databases in Microsoft Azure. What a thing. Who knew?